Michelin, moving the ag industry forward through outstanding product performance. The land. It really hasn't changed much since our forefathers first cleared and plowed it. What has changed is the technology we use to work the land. New technology that replaced back-breaking labor with efficient machines. Newer technologies replaced the previous, multiplying the farmer's output. Today, the trend hasn't changed. If anything, the pace has accelerated. Advances in engineering design, informational technologies, and genetics require successful farmers to learn to embrace any technology that will positively affect their bottom line.
Every farmer has to make decisions if he's going to survive. The competition just to stay in the game has grown dramatically. Gone is the luxury of watching a neighbor use a new technology for 5 or 10 years before deciding, I better do this too. Those that don't keep up get left behind. An example is in the 1960s and 70s when the average corn hybrid stayed on the market for 9 years. Today the average is 3 years. So today's technology turnover is 3 times faster. And if you're still using that 9-year-old technology, you're no longer competitive. What it comes down to is this. The difference between a successful farm operation and those that fail is whether they're willing to consider new ways of doing things that will increase productivity, increase their bottom line, and keep them competitive.
In this program, we are going to look at one such technology. A breakthrough in tire construction and design that is engineered to put you ahead of the competition. These new design innovations can increase your bottom line through increased operational efficiencies, such as traction and fuel efficiency, decreased soil compaction, and decreased operator fatigue. We will talk about the science behind these concepts and speak with farmers who have used the new technology. Finally, you will be able to see side-by-side comparisons from Yuma, Arizona, Evansville, Indiana, and Purdue University to see for yourself how innovative tire technologies can create productivity breakthroughs at the Michelin Ag Challenge.
And they're off. Now you're going to drop the plows. Michelin on the right, competitor on the left.
Information technology has revolutionized the way business is done today. World markets and governments set final output prices, leaving farmers with little control over what they will get for their labor. What control they do have is over their inputs. Producing more with the same inputs is a key to being profitable.
Any technology that can either increase output or decrease input potentially improves profitability. For example, we've studied planting time in April and May and found that at that time of the year, field time with the planter often has a value of over $500 an hour. That's because there's a very clear planting time response for many crops. Take corn, for example. You plant too early and you're going to have problems with stand development. Too late and the yield declines rapidly. Plus, late planting negatively affects harvest moisture. Here's where new technology comes in. You miss your opportunity at planting time because your equipment can't handle the soil conditions. Your profitability can be greatly reduced.
When a farmer is forced to work in wet conditions, the single most limiting factor is increased slip or loss of traction. The most important step to maximizing traction is proper tire selection. Radial tires, first invented by the Michelin Tire company, offer important design advantages over bias tires in any farm operation. Radials will operate at lower pressures than the older style bias tires, offer a flatter and larger footprint, and provide better ground pressure distribution. But not all radial tires are created equal. The outside may look the same, but inside are more than 200 raw materials that make up a radial tire. It is a complex architecture of steel belts, textile plies, and computer-designed tread patterns, all engineered to produce optimized performance for its particular use. Innovative tread design sheds mud instead of clogging the lugs. Innovative casing design increases the size of the contact patch or footprint on the ground to gain more traction. Another advantage of the Michelin radials is reduced tire pressure. Traction, or reduced slippage, is the name of the game, and tests have repeatedly shown that as tire pressure decreases, traction increases. In fact, reducing pressure from 23 psi to 8 psi gains a 13% increase in traction. But reducing pressure to 8 psi also caused major problems, until Michelin created proven casing design unlike anything else in the marketplace. The Michelin tires can run pressures as low as 6 psi. And unlike their competition, the Michelin tires do not slip on the rim, nor will they come off the rim or crack the bead at these low pressures. The results are significant. The Michelin technology consistently outperformed the competition in all conditions, yet the differences increased as soil conditions worsened, as often encountered during critical times of the year. The results were so impressive that Michelin took the tests on the road for farmers to see with their own eyes. They went first to Yuma, Arizona for a comparison in dry, dense clay soils. Tractors used in the Michelin Challenge need to be exactly alike. So, 2 John Deere Model 8420 tractors, only one serial number apart, were fitted with Michelin tires on one and the competition's on the other. It is also important to have an implement that was over the normal limits to cause above average slip. A single plow, a 5-shank ripper with 36-inch shanks, was exchanged between tractors. The plow was adjusted to operate at top efficiency on both tractors. Since this was a towed implement, it was easily exchanged from one tractor to the other. The tractors were carefully weighed, and tire pressure is set to the manufacturer's data book recommendations. Because of the extremely heavy pull, the tires were marked to determine if there was any rim slip, where the rim actually spins inside the bead and moves around the rim. We found this to be the case with the competitive tires. Because the rim slip causes severe bead damage to the tire, we contacted the competitor asking for their remedy. We were advised to raise the tire pressures from the recommendations in the data book to approximately double the PSI. We compromised at half that increase to maintain as much traction as possible, and found that this 50% higher pressure eliminated the rim slip. The Michelin tires were inflated to much lower pressures, keeping in line with the Michelin data book recommendations. After repeated and extensive testing, it was concluded that the Michelin tractor made each run in an average of 1 minute 5 seconds less than the competition. In a 10-hour day, this computes to approximately a 1.5-hour saving in time and, of course, fuel. Next, in a side-by-side test in Evansville, Indiana, Michelin again took on the locally favorite competitor. These soils were drying out from a soaking rain a week before. The challenge in Evansville was different than the Yuma challenge in that it was performed racetrack style. Each tractor was of course identical and pulled identical disc chisel plows. Again, one tractor was equipped with Michelin tires and the other with competitive tires. Rim slip was encountered again with the competitor's tires at the manufacturer's data book pressures. The tire pressures were increased until they stopped slipping. In this challenge, the tractors were started side by side exactly at the same time. This setup clearly demonstrated that the Michelin tires had more traction and handily pulled in the lead. Several runs were made to conclusively determine the reliability of the test runs. Finally, at Purdue University's research farm in West Lafayette, Indiana, curious local farmers and Purdue staff gathered to watch Michelin go head-to-head with the local competition.
Inflation's important, very important. They're going to bring some of that to your attention today.
We also want to talk to you about some things that, whether you use a Michelin tire or not, can help you in your farming. Those that are, and there's probably some in this barn today, that are doing this to their tires are not getting what they paid for when they bought the tires.
As far as the ratio on a mechanical assist, John Deere likes it 35 on the front, 35% of the total weight on the front. They like 65% on the rear, and that's about exactly what we have.
The day promised to be challenging, as the fields were still wet from a rain the day before. In the Purdue Challenge, the tractors used were identical John Deere 8420s. The plows were also identical disc chisel plows. This challenge was again performed racetrack style.
Line them up good, Tony.
Data book tire pressures for the competitive tires again had to be raised to prevent rim slip. It quickly became apparent that the Michelin tires had superior traction. Although wet conditions are not desirable for field work, as is often the case, it is sometimes necessary to plant and harvest on schedule. At times, the plow on the competitor's tractor had to be raised just to allow it to keep moving. Slip often reached 100% on the competitor's tractor. To keep the competition fair, the idea was to keep the plows in the ground at the same depth. But this became impossible on the competitive machine because it soon got stuck and stopped pulling as it reached 100% slip. To make sure the comparison was fair, the implements were then switched from tractor to tractor. This put the Michelin tires at a distinct disadvantage because there was not time to readjust the drawbar height. Since the Michelin tires take a lower bar height, it puts the plow in even deeper. But in spite of this disadvantage, the Michelin tractor continued to pull ahead of the competition. Even at that, the competitor had to continually feather the plow up just to keep moving. These challenges are not the first time Michelin has gone head-to-head with the competition. An earlier study compared both new and worn tires. As time goes on and wear increases, the difference between the Michelin tires and the competition actually increases. The end result, as shown in this chart, is an increase of productivity. This will positively affect your bottom line in two additional ways. You will see increased fuel efficiency and decreased man hours. In further tests, 1,000-acre fields were completed in 7 and 18 hours faster than with competitive tires. Given fuel consumption at 15 to 16 gallons an hour, the savings in each 1,000-acre plots are significant. Remember, this was the savings for just a single pass of 1,000 acres. Farming can be as unpredictable as the weather. There are some aspects you have no control over. Other variables you do control. Every year has its challenges, but anything that increases productivity will become readily apparent at harvest time. Reducing soil compaction is another one of those variables that farmers can have control over. Productive plants need good soil conditions. Here we have an example of shorter, stunted roots on the left, caused by wheel compaction. Scientific studies have shown that compaction clearly affects the potential of the plant to produce. One study by researcher D.C. Erbach of Ohio State University observed an average yield loss of 13% due to compaction. For 1,000 acres of corn, this is equivalent to a $50,000 loss. To study improved ways to reduce soil compaction, Purdue University joined forces with Michelin AG tires in a demonstration study. Purdue University Farm Operations Manager Jeff Fields explains the process.
Well, Michelin Tire Company has asked us to dig a pit 12 by 28 feet, 3 feet deep. We're going to layer this pit after we get it excavated with about 2 to 3 inches of pulverized topsoil. Then we have a product called Dusty 12s that we're going to layer in at a ½ inch thick and just continue that until we come up to grade, so we'll have a striation in the soil.
A time lapse of the construction shows the entire process in less than a minute. Next, a combine was prepared by mounting Michelin high flotation 650/85/38 tires on one side and standard 520/85/46 tires by a competitor on the opposite side. The combine was then filled with 350 bushels of corn. Then the loaded front axle was weighed in.
So on the front axle, we weighed it this morning, we've got some 53,000 pounds. That's a lot of weight. On this side of the combine, we have normal combine, typical combine duals, and these would be 520/85/46s in this case. With this weight on the combine, we've had to put these tires at 30 psi. On this side, with our very high volume tires, we can get the pressure down as low as 17 psi. This is a major upgrade.
The combine was then run over the previously prepared pit. A high-clearance sprayer with Michelin high flotation tires on one side and standard competitors' tires on the other was also run over the compaction pit. Finally, Purdue re-excavated the pit.
Fast so that we can get out to the demonstrations, because I'll tell you, and I haven't experienced all we're going to experience in the demos today, but I am very excited about what I think we're going to learn. I try to keep telling the students it can be fun to learn.
Purdue University professor Dr. Tony Vine addressed curious local farmers and Purdue employees with the results.
Because the primary way that compaction has a negative impact on crop development is actually from the water that is available. And so when we're thinking about minimizing compaction, it's kind of a total management system. And the total management system is of course tire choice and inflation pressure. But
the trace layers clearly showed the differences. The Michelin high flotation tires on the left had less rutting, only 6.5 inches of depth, compared to the competition's tires on the right at 10 inches of compaction.
What do you think your profit's going to do at the end of the year? I think it's going to go up. I think you've got a real good potential of making better income when your crop's vigorous. Vigorous crop will get through a little bit more of the drought conditions, won't it? Better start, better survivability. Better stand, more ears of corn. More weight. The market's always going to fluctuate, but these are things that we can control or help control. And we can help control it by thinking a little bit differently about what we're choosing to put on the equipment that we're currently using.
And local area farmer John Kretzmeyer shared his results in his own fields.
But about 5 years ago, I was having trouble getting through the field. Not this combine, the previous one, but same size. And at that particular time, it had an 8-row head on it. But couldn't get through the field anymore. And you farmers know how it is. You skip over 100 rows or so thinking you can cut another land and get through, and it just wasn't working. And my daughter had a ball game that evening, and I told Gary that if he'd come out and put those tires on while I was at the ball game and I didn't have to wait on him, that I'd try them. Everything's the same corn heads, same variety of corn, same field, the only difference being the tires. And when we put the Michelins on, went right beside the areas that I had to previously back out of. And not only did we pass through that area without spinning and cutting a track, we weren't even sinking into the ground enough to even pick any dirt up on the tires. So at that point I was sold, and now I've got Michelins on everything. I'm a firm believer, and I guess that was just such an obvious example of what they could do. That was a real field, real world experience, and it made me a believer.
Compaction is a real problem and a common source of yield reduction. Taking measures to reduce its impact will improve productivity.